under the sun with the salt on their skin. Legends of the tide where tales begin. John Bayliss builds, Billy holds the line, Barry steers the dreams, Paul's finesse shines. Gene whispers to the waves the ocean knows. Kevin's laughter rides where the wild wind blows. They're the captains of crew, the masters of the sea, casting lines of stories where the world runs free. From the first light shimmer to the last moon's glow, legends of fishing where the waters flow. They read the currents like a book of lore, and every splash a chapter, every wave a score. Building boats that dance with the ocean song, guides through the blue, where hearts belong. Salt-streaked hands, a compass in their soul, riding tides of passion, chasing fish in their soul. They're the captains of crew, the masters of the sea, casting lines of stories where the world runs free. From the first light shimmer to the last moon's glow, they are the legends.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the 2025 IGFA Tommy Gifford Awards. We're going to go ahead and get started. So if I could ask a few people still mingling. I know we see everybody, not enough anymore, so it's always great to see everybody and tell great stories. So welcome. My name's Eric Combass. I'm the Development Director for the International Game Fish Association. And I'm pleased to say, thank you, Julie, that this is the 15th anniversary of the Tommy Gifford Awards. That's pretty amazing, 15 years. So please, everybody in the room, join us. Skip's vision before this was amazing. We talked way back in 2010, 2009 about this, and here it is. So it's wonderful to see everybody here. Hope everybody's enjoying the boat show, or going to be enjoying the boat show, or hate going to the boat show. There's those categories for the boat show. Great to be back at the Westin, Fort Lauderdale. We love the staff here. Thank you, everybody in the room that's making tonight happen. We appreciate the staff, so thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys. This is, I think, our 4th year here, so we appreciate it. We do a little housekeeping. We do film, and in about 2 weeks or so, we'll have this out on YouTube. So please be quiet if you can. Well, not if you can. Please be quiet. You don't want me coming over and tapping on your shoulder. But if I do, please just be quiet because the microphones pick those up. And we're going to hear some great stories. We've got fantastic storytellers here tonight. So for the best possible audio, please try and keep it down. On the back of your name badges, I don't have a name badge, I have a claw. On the back of your name badges is a QR code. If you want to become an IGFA member, please scan that. Everybody scans tonight. We've got a cool package we'll send to you. So please join up and sign now on the QR code. Get stuff from AFCO and Yeti and Florida Connie, all sorts of great stuff. It's going to be an incredible evening, and I'm going to get this thing started with our chairman, my friend, Mr. Roy Croniker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's always my great honor as chairman of the IGFA to be at this event. I think it's probably one of the best events we do, if not the best. I always say this every year. It's the stories from the people that we know and the people that we fished with. Over the years that I've been chairman and we've had these inductees here, I've probably fished with about half of them. And they're great people. And it's a great process. It's really fun. One thing I want to say before I thank our sponsors is I was in a meeting the other day, and one thing that we don't realize is when Jason and I took the helm for the IGFA about 5, 6 years ago, we had about, 4,000 or 5,000 members. We are now, in a conversation we had the other day, along with our captain's program and everything else, we're at 53,000 members worldwide. I want to tell you, the crew at IGFA are phenomenal. We have 20 full-time employees. We're going up to, I think, 2 more recently. The amount of work that these people do is phenomenal. It's just outstanding. I'm really proud to be a part of the group. In the meantime, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Mike Crisola and the Crisdale Group, and Middlesex Corporation with Bob Piera. And I also want to give a special thanks to our host, Skip Smith, and as a newest inductee in year 2025 in the Hall of Fame for the IGFA. And with that, I'm going to look forward to hearing the stories this year, and I'm going to turn the floor over to my good friend, Jason Schratwieser, President of the IGFA.
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? As I always say, man, I forget how bright these lights are when you get up there. Well, it's that time of year again where we gather together to celebrate the individuals that have made a significant difference in the sport we love so much, fishing. Tonight we have the honor of celebrating 6 very special individuals: John Bayliss, Billy Borer, Barry Cross, Paul Dixon, Gene Grimes, and Kevin Nakamaru. Let's give them a hand, everybody. But one of the coolest things about this event is how we memorialize or celebrate them. We're going to celebrate them tonight through stories, not always suitable for work, but stories nonetheless, from their peers and friends in the industry. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate the people that have been the innovators, the pioneers, and mentors of our sport. Before we get started, and I know everybody's ready to get this going, I want to take a few minutes to recognize some special people. I'd like to start by recognizing a special guest that's in the audience tonight. From my home state of Virginia, I would like to welcome Congressman Rob Whitman. Give a round of applause for the Congressman. Congressman Whitman serves as the Vice Chairman of the House of Natural Resources Committee, where he's a leading voice on fisheries conservation and the health of our marine ecosystems. He's one of the good guys on our side, people. A lifetime outdoorsman, he brings a deep expertise and passion to his work. Earlier this year, Congressman Whitman introduced the Supporting the Health of Aquatic Systems Through Research, Knowledge, Enhanced Dialogue Act of 2025. That's a mouthful. We call it the Shark Act. Better known as the Shark Act, this bipartisan legislation is aimed to address the growing concerns that we're seeing, not just here in Florida, but all of our coastal states with shark depredation. And you're going to hear more from the Congressman about that this evening. Next, I want to acknowledge our sponsors that have made tonight possible. Our presenting sponsor again, Crisdale Group, courtesy of IGFA trustee Mike Crisola, thank you very much. Middlesex Corporation, Bob Pereira. Yeah, please clap, go ahead. On to our Marlin sponsors, I want to thank my good friend and IGFA Chairman, Roy Chronicle. Roy, you do so much for the IGFA. Really, the growth that we've had in the last 6 years is largely attributed to your leadership, so thank you so much. Bayliss Boat Works, thank you, John Bayliss, and congratulations. The Dreamcatcher Foundation, courtesy of IGFA Trustee Emeritus Bob Rich. Congratulations on your movie, Bob. It's doing great. On to our Sailfish sponsors, Contender, courtesy of IGFA Trustee Amanda Sabin. Thank you so much, Amanda. Northern Lights, courtesy of Sam Hill and Kit Purdy. And our good friends at Wild Oceans, courtesy of my good friend Tim Choate. Thank you so much, IGFA Trustee Emeritus. And then on to our Dorado sponsors, Gulf Coast Yacht Group, courtesy of Tracy Green. Ola Yacht Sales, courtesy of IGFA Trustee Ajay Vicente and Jose Vicente. Thanks, guys. Penn, Northern Lights Sport Fishing, courtesy of Captain Nakamaru. Yeah, give it up. Shiable Construction, courtesy of John Bailey. Viking Yachts, thank you so much for being here tonight. This evening is also made possible, as Roy stated earlier, by Skip Smith and Skip's Tournaments. Thank you so much, Skip, not only for the support of this, but it was really your leadership and intellectual horsepower that really got us to where we needed to be to put on an event and put an award like this together. So let's give Skip a round of applause. Yep. Who's enjoying the rum here? Not many? Okay. I also want to thank Florida Canyon, our IGFA Trustee Emeritus, Carlos Pellis, for providing the specialty rum bar this evening. It's really some of the best rum you can find. I also want to thank the rest of our board members that have not been acknowledged so far. We're really fortunate at IGFA to have a board of trustees that are fun to work with, that are engaged, and like to move the needle forward. And we're so fortunate. So I'd like to recognize some people that are in the audience tonight. And when I mention your name, if you'll stand up so people can see you, I'd appreciate it. Terry Andrews, the official mama of IGFA, Trustee Emeritus. Yep. Renowned record holder, Marty Arostegui, also Trustee Emeritus. Pam Basco, are you here? I didn't run into you early, but she's also Trustee Emeritus. Pam, if you're here, please stand up. Karen Comstock, IGFA Trustee. My good friend, Guy Harvey, Trustee Emeritus. And another dear friend and a true mentor to me, past President Rob Kramer. Last but not least, Sammy Peters. Thanks for all you do, Sammy. None of these events go off without the incredible staff of the IGFA, and we've got such an amazing and cohesive staff that when it comes to an event like this, it doesn't really matter what department you work at. And as Roy said, we're a small team. We're 20 or so individuals, but we all pitch in together. But there's a few that really lay the groundwork and do a lot of work for this tonight, and I want to mention them especially right now. First of all, Eric Combast, our Director of Development. This guy throws parties like nobody else, and right there beside him working on this is Kim Strong. Both of these guys are so great on that. But we also have some other people that are really pulling their weight too. Zach Bellapena, thanks so much. Our Chief Development Officer, Barbara Cini, she's awesome. Will Corte on our media side, thanks so much for being here. Adrian Gray, arguably the best all-around fisherman at the IGFA, and our marketing director, probably the best known person at IGFA, honestly, to tell you the truth. Our conservation director, Dr. Bruce Polo, thanks for being here and being part of it. So let's give a big round of applause for the IGFA staff. As Roy said, they're awesome. Okay, we're getting close here, folks. Finally, I also want to thank our legendary captains and crew for providing the guidance. It's a very rigorous selection process that they do each year. It's a fun one, but it's really an involved and rigorous one. So when I mention your name, please stand up. Captain Skip Smith, our chairman. My good buddy Carl Anderson, vice chairman. Bobby Brown, I don't think he's here. Barky Garnsey, I don't think is also here. Billy Harrison is attending, I believe. Steve Lastly. Mike Minot can't be here with us tonight. CP Charles Perry, stand up. Bouncer Smith, you're here because you were sitting in my chair earlier. Gary Stuve and Lori Wright. All right, guys, on to the main event. Tonight, Captain Skip Smith will be your Masters of Ceremonies. He is one of a very few individuals that has both received the Tommy Gifford Award and, as Roy said earlier, This year, he also was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So let's give Skip a round of applause again. As you know, and as I've just said, Skip serves as the chairman for the legendary captains and crew. He's an accomplished and well-known captain the world over. His body of work speaks for itself. As the captain of the Madam of the Hooker with Deborah Dunaway and Jerry Dunaway, he fished 25 countries on an 11-year quest to break records, and he did a pretty good job. Over his career, he amassed a total of 49 IGFA world records, most of them on billfish. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Captain Skip Smith.
Wow. Semi-trucks coming right at us. Well, welcome everybody. We really appreciate you all coming out to support not only the inductees tonight, but the IGFA itself. I pinch myself every night. I'm seeing all you guys come in out there and getting together and telling a few fish stories, and it's just really special to me and everybody else that's involved. My committee, we just can't get over how well this has turned out. Now with the bright lights, I'm going to start to read something. Go right back to here. Thanks, Jason. Tonight we'll be presenting the Tommy Gifford Awards to 6 inductees. Tommy Gifford is considered one of the most innovative blue water skippers ever to guide anglers to the major game fishes of the sea. He began his chartering career in Miami in 1920. Just before Bouncer there, huh? Just close. Gifford was the first to use outriggers on the East Coast and the first to catch an Atlantic blue marlin with his new devices, those outriggers. Throughout Tommy Gifford's 50-year career, he developed an encyclopedic knowledge of game fishing techniques to catch them, and he served as guide and consultant to some of the most famous names in saltwater angling, including Van Campton Hellner, Charlie Lehman, Michael Lerner, and Ernest Hemingway. Raymond Camp once wrote, "Big game angling has a brief history, but Tommy Gifford's name is etched sharply on every page." In the room this evening, we have several past recipients of this prestigious award. Please stand and be recognized when I call your name. Alex Adler. Carl Anderson. Billy Harrison. Steve Lastly. Charles Perry. Ray Rocher. Chip Schaefer. Bouncer Smith. R.T. Trossett. Bubba Carter. Those fish got the night off tonight, man. Tonight we're honoring 6 new Tommy Gifford recipients. I think their names have been called already, but I get to do it too. John Bayliss, Billy Boer, Barry Cross, Paul Dixon, Gene Grimes, and Kevin Nakamaru. Jason read something off earlier, really caught my attention. It really means a lot. He said, in case you weren't paying attention to Jason's speech, tonight is about celebrating the captains and crews who are the heart and soul of our sport. These are the pioneers who push boundaries, the innovators who elevate the sport, and the mentors who shape the next generation of watermen. Really great line, guys. The primary criteria for receiving the Tommy Gifford Award from the IGFA is that the captain or crew member must have provided leadership in their trade and have earned the respect of their peers, thus making a meaningful contribution to the sport of recreational angling over an extended period. The nominee must demonstrate that he or she has espoused the ethical angling standards stated by the founders of the IGFA. Behind me on the stage tonight is the Tommy Gifford Award Perpetual Trophy. And each of these new honorees is enshrined on it. The trophy is housed at IGFA headquarters. They also have a really cool library you should all go see. It is really cool with the stuff they've collected over the years. And now let's begin with our first nominee, John Bayliss. Tonight, we start the evening with Captain Bayliss. John turned childhood passion for offshore fishing into a legendary career as a charter captain and now a boat builder, founding Bayliss Boat Works and inspiring generations of watermen through his innovation, mentorship, and dedication to the sport. As Jason mentioned earlier, we're honored to have Congressman Ron Whitman with us this evening. Congressman Whitman, would you please do the honor of opening the event with a few words about John and his remarkable contribution to the sport? Come on up there, Congressman.
Thank you, Skip. You're welcome. God bless you, brother. Thanks for all you're doing. Well, Skip, thank you and good evening. Isn't this a great event? This is absolutely phenomenal. I tell you, I am excited to be here, even more excited to have a chance to tell a few fish stories about my friend John Bayliss. John is truly one of those pioneers that IGFA highlights about what happened in the recreational fishing industry through the years to get us to where we are today. You know, my time with John goes a number of years back. In fact, one of my best friends, Dave Jansen, worked as a mate on this little boat called the Temptress, Chip Schaefer's boat down there in Cape Hatteras. And Dave was a friend of mine, and Dave said, hey, I want you to meet this guy. He's working for Captain Emery Dillon on the boat, the Early Bird, which was an old 44-foot Sheldon midget boat. It actually was the old Stormy Duchess. So I went over and met John, and John was very busy rigging baits. And he was like, I don't know who this guy is, but you're bothering me. I'm rigging baits. Don't get in the way of me doing my work. But we had a good initial conversation there. And from that point, the friendship grew. From there, John moved to Oregon Inlet, and he went to another Sheldon midget boat, the Fighting Lady, run by Captain Sam Stokes. And it was a fantastic time there. I remember as John moved from Hatteras to Oregon Inlet that I was in the market to get some new deck shoes, because in the day we used to wear those flat-soled topsiders, and they were fine, but they'd wear out really fast. And when your feet got wet, you'd kind of slide around in them. And I was watching these mates, and they were wearing this new type of topsider. And man, they were getting things done. And I thought, man, I've got to get me a pair of those. So I looked all over Dare County, North Carolina. I went everywhere, and sorry, we're sold out. Sorry, we're sold out. And I'm like, man, what in the world? So I went to Dave. I said, Dave, where are you guys getting these shoes? And he goes, hey, I got an inside guy. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to go to some back alley somewhere and find out where to get a pair of these shoes. He says, come on with me. We're going to go talk to John Bayliss. So sure enough, John had a source. So John made sure that I got my first pair of deck shoes that actually worked the way they needed to under those various conditions. And he made sure that I got those on time and quickly so they would be put to the best use in the days to come. When I would get out of school each year, I'd go immediately to Oregon Inlet and start to work. The problem is by that time, all the charter boat captains already had their mates. So I usually start in the fish house, cleaning fish, going out and helping take care of the boats, fueling up the boats at the fuel dock. And then eventually there would be an opening on a boat and I'd get a chance to work for some folks down there. And they took lots of mercy with me. But I would always go to John and ask him countless questions. John, what are you doing to rig baits? Because I always noticed when I got to fish with John that there was nobody that could rig a bait better than John Bayliss. I would watch those baits and they would never spin. They would never jump out of the water. They'd always swim like they were designed to swim. And of course, when that happens, you catch a lot of fish. And John was great at doing that. So I got to learn a lot from John, asked a lot of questions. Many times I think he got to the point, he was very polite about it. I think he got to the point that he said, Rob, that's enough questions. But he had infinite patience in making sure that every question was answered. And then he moved on from working for Sam Stokes to his own boat. The first Ricky Scarborough Tar Heel that he ran, did a fantastic job there. And his first mate was Marty Brill. And Marty worked over on the Sundancer for Nevin Westcott, and what a great combination there was. I have some pictures back in the day too of Marty and John, and that was a dynamic duo there at Oregon Inlet. What a great time. And then John moved on from there to a 56 man, the next Tar Heel, and had a lot of great experiences there. In fact, I remember vividly John calling me one winter back in 1992, and he was excited. He goes, "Rob, you got to come down. You got to come down now." And I'm like, is everything okay? Is this an emergency? He says, "No, seriously, you got to come down." I said, "I'm taking the boat down to Hatteras tomorrow morning. I want you to meet me in Hatteras tomorrow morning." I'm like, "John, what's going on?" He goes, "Man, we have found the bluefin tuna, and you've got to get here because they're all over the place, and we figured out where they are and how to catch them." So I gathered up a couple of folks. We went down to Cape Hatteras, met John down there, jumped on the boat, and I'm thinking, what's he talking about? So we go out and we stop the boat in 90 feet of water. And I'm like, "John, why are we stopping here? We need to keep going." We stop there. He pulls out a flat of bunkers and he starts throwing bunkers in the water. I'm thinking, I love John, but John, this is a little crazy, man. I don't know what the heck you're doing. All of a sudden, within a few minutes, here come these giant bluefins boiling behind the boat, literally like feeding fish in an aquarium. Folks, that day we caught and released 28 giant bluefin tuna. It was the most memorable day ever. And there's a picture up there. John got so excited, John came down off the flying bridge and said, "I've got to wire some of these fish. I've never wired a fish that big before, a tuna that big before." So John came off the flying bridge and went down there. I have some pictures of him actually wiring some of those big tuna. What an incredible day. But again, that's what John is all about. It's about making sure that he's having other people experience what he experiences, and it's about friends and the things that he does. And you look at where he's gone from there to working there on the Hatter Rascal and learning the things that he learned there. And John is that innovative and creative thinker, and he's always looking for ways to do things better, whether it's fishing or whether it's in boat building. And in his time there, he would always talk about, "Gosh, Rob, if this boat just had this, or if it had that, or if the boat could do this," he goes, "we could catch a lot more fish." So guess what? Being the leader that he is, he said, "I'm not going to talk about it. I'm actually going to do something about it. I'm going to start my own company, take a risk, start my own company." And that's what he did. John took that concept of a purpose-built custom sport fisherman, and that's how he started out and did an incredible job there. Took a big risk, did an incredible job, and today has built a magnificent business about making fishing boats even better. Every one that comes off the line there, folks, is a little bit better than the previous one. And you know how you know that? Look at the number of repeat customers that John has. Look at the number of customers that don't just get one build boat there, they get 2 boats, 3 boats, sometimes even 4 boats. And why? Because John continues to make them better and better. That's just the type of person he is. He looks at details, whether it's in fishing. He became a much better fisherman every day because he looked at getting better. He looked at making sure that he learned, and he was a friend. The way that you learn, the way that you get more into your mindset is making sure you have a great network of friends. John has an amazing network of friends. And also, he listens, he learns, he does things innovatively and creatively because he knows that his business can't stay still if he wants to make sure that he stays ahead. And another thing about John is an incredible friend. If you are a friend of John Bayliss, you are a lifelong friend. But another thing, too, is John's family. John is a family man. And you look at how his business has come about today. You look at his son working there. You look at his daughter who worked there for years. And Hilda. Hilda's been there by his side through the years. What a great standard for what a business should be about. A family business, a business that cares, but a business that's also innovative and creative. I have the opportunity to talk to John about some things involving not just boat building, but shipbuilding. I also serve on the House Armed Services Committee, where I'm on the Sea Power Subcommittee, and we oversee the United States Navy. And I've been trying to talk the Navy into adopting some of the technologies and things that John Bayliss does at Bayliss Boat Works. And John says, "I don't know about that," but I can tell you, we have several mutual friends that are also in the business of building those big ships. And the innovative things that John does there are things that our United States Navy could learn a lot about. And they are just basic elements about how do you take technology and apply it. Pretty incredible. And folks, I tell you, you won't find a better combination of an incredible fisherman, an incredible person. You won't find anybody better on this earth than John Bayliss as far as a person, just who he is, a family man, a business person, somebody who cares about the recreational fishing industry, cares about the boat building industry, cares about his family, cares about his friends. Folks, I think that we are all put on earth for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to make a difference in at least one other person's life, at least one other person. And John, you have been successful beyond the wildest dreams because you made a difference in hundreds of people's lives in what you've done in your boat building business, what you've done for the recreational fishing industry. And I want to close with this, folks. About 3 years ago, John called me and he said, Rob, you've got to do something. I'm like, uh-oh, what do I have to do, John? He says, we will not have a recreational fishing industry if something isn't done about shark depredation. He goes, our charter fishermen cannot go out there and make a living with the sharks eating all of the fish that they're hooking up on the boats. We have to do something. And we had a long discussion about what was happening with sharks, whether it was offshore fishing, whether it was inshore fishing. It was everywhere. You couldn't escape it. And John said, we just have to do something. And John had experience both on the recreational side, but also on the commercial side. There's probably nobody better versed in that issue than John Bayliss. So John and I had a good discussion about what we needed to do. And just as Jason said, we came up with a bill called the Shark Act to figure out how do we actually get after this? How do we make sure that we're managing our shark populations properly? This is a great success story. Shark populations have recovered, but how do we make sure too that we're managing the other fish too as part of this ecosystem? Because what happens with shark depredation is you go out and you hook 10 fish, but you only get 2 because the sharks get the other 8. But guess what? When we're managing fisheries, those 8 fish never get counted as far as the mortality in fishing. So we've got to do a better job in managing our shark populations. And from that point, we put together the Shark Act. And with the help of a lot of others, a lot of in this room, folks like Rick Murphy and Guy Harvey and others have been just critical in getting the word out there about how important this bill is. We were able to get it through the House, passed out of the House. Senator Rick Scott here from the state of Florida. Let's give Senator Rick Scott a round of applause because he put the bill in on the Senate side. And that bill is before the Senate now, and hopefully when the government reopens, and hopefully that happens soon, when the government reopens, that bill will be on the Senate floor and hopefully signed into law and signed into, or passed in the Senate and signed into law by the president. That'll be the first major step for us to take fishery science and make the right decisions about how to properly manage shark populations and make sure we're properly managing the other populations of fish that we all love and care so deeply about. So folks, thanks again. John, congratulations. I cannot think of anybody more deserving of the Tommy Gifford Award than you. Thank you, my friend. You have done an incredible job. What a great legacy that you've had. And I cannot thank you enough for all that you've done. Can't thank you enough for your friendship, for what you've done for everybody in this room. We are all better off, John, for what you have done throughout your time, both in the recreational fishing industry and the boat building industry. So folks, thanks again. I wish each of you God's continued blessings, and may God bless our great United States of America.
Thank you, Rob. You're welcome. You're welcome so much. Thank you, Rob. How about next we have Smythe McKissick. Come on up here. Tell us another story, Smythe.
Good evening. I'm Smythe McKissick, and it's an honor for me to join you in celebrating John Bayliss as he receives the IGFA Tommy Gifford Award. And to all of tonight's honorees, congratulations. I met John over 40 years ago, and we've been good friends ever since. John introduced me to light tackle sail fishing in Puerto Aventuras, Mexico in the 90s on his charter boat, the Tar Heel. I'll never forget our first trip. We caught 12 sails, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I knew that I was in the company of a great fisherman and an even greater person. Thanks to this legend, we've had our share of many amazing days on the water. He has shown me so many billfish in so many cool places. And when fishing with John, your days will be intense, they'll be fun, they'll be funny, and you'll get your share of bites. One of my favorite trips was around 2014. We were fishing in Los Sueños on the 46-foot Tar Heel. You just saw a picture of it. It was our last day of a 3-day trip, and we were catching them. Late that afternoon, I came up on the bridge, and John asked, "Do you really think we should leave this tomorrow? It's pretty good." About that time, our great mate Jorge came out of the cabin with 4 12-packs of ballyhoo to thaw and prep. John said, "Well, Georgie's rigging up for tomorrow. Like we're staying, we certainly can't waste the ballyhoo. We've got to stay." We both smiled. We stayed. The next day, he caught us 70 sailfish. You know, John's quite the jokester, too. One day, we were practice fishing in Costa Rica on John's brand new Tar Heel, built at Bayliss Boat Works by John, his amazing son, and their great team. A stunning creation by a Hall of Fame builder. It was after lunch during a bit of a midday lull. I had rotated to right flat when our colorful tower man, Jack Graham, announced over the headset that he urgently needed to come downstairs to the head. He did so with his headset on, and shortly thereafter, we could hear his drama-filled visit downstairs. A few moments later, Jack says, "Oh boy, we have a problem. Cap, she's jammed. She just can't take it." I heard John's familiar exasperated sigh, and he said, "Calm down, Jack. I'll handle it. Get me the bucket." So Georgie, Jorge, our great mate, comes up, grabs a wheel. John comes downstairs and goes inside, and we can hear John sloshing and fighting with the head. Finally, he said, "All clear. I'm coming out with the bucket." Unbeknownst to me, it was all a ruse. The head was fine. John and Jack had been in the galley creating a harmless faux blackwater slurry. Out of the corner of my eye, I see the door open. Here comes John with his full chamber pot, stumbling like Kramer coming into Seinfeld's apartment. He teeters, clears the mezzanine, and the bucket is headed straight towards me, straight towards right flat. Thankfully, my feet cleared as the slurry came cascading over his beautiful teak. I looked over to give John that, "What the?" look, and he's grinning from ear to ear. We all roared with laughter. Such a classic from such a creative man, and it set the stage for a wonderful afternoon of sailfish. And John, to you, congratulations. I am so very proud of you, and I cherish our wonderful friendship. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Smythe. Before we get to John, there's one last guy that wants to say a few words, but I'm gonna have the stopwatch on. Chip Schaefer, come on up.
I tell you one thing, the only time that I really regret having give up drinking is when I have a public speaking deal here going. I really do. I have known John Bayliss. Well, first of all, let me congratulate all the folks that are here tonight winning this award. Congratulations. I've known John Bayliss since the mid-'70s. He had just signed on as a mate aboard the Early Bird under Captain Emery Dillon in Hatteras, North Carolina. He was a wiry, blonde-headed kid. The first time I met him, he was underneath of a Detroit 471, rolling bearings in the thing under the instructions of Captain Emery Dillon. He was black as the ace of spades. I was impressed with him that day, with his dedication to his work, and I have remained impressed with him for the last 50 years. John was a product of one of my favorite people, and one of his too, I'm sure, Captain Emery Dillon of the Early Bird. He stressed doing everything you could do the best you could. Always go the full distance for your people. He was a great teacher of economy of motion in the cockpit. He made everyone that worked for him better. Always give it your best. He had no patience with shysters in the charter boat business. After completing a tour with Emery, John went to work with the legendary Sam Stokes of the Fighting Lady out of Oregon Inlet Fishing Center. This duo wreaked havoc on the local fish populations. One of the great stories in Oregon Inlet lore is their 23.5-hour fight with a big blue marlin, hooked at 9 o'clock in the morning and lost at 8:30 the morning of the next day. John, Sam, myself, and our wives had the honor of hearing Sam recount that story just last week when we all ate supper together in North Carolina. Sam Stokes, one of the all-time greats, fighting lady. Since Sam did not fish in the winter, I had the privilege of having John fish with me on the Temptress out of Fort Pierce for a couple of winters in the late 70s. As one would expect, he was a fantastic mate. About all I had to do was get the boat out of the slip, get it back in the slip, and collect the charter fee. He pretty well took care of all the rest. I do remember one incident during the period of time. We were cruising south in the Intercoastal Waterway in the long cut that's behind Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. John was preparing our lunch. John came out into the cockpit covered in what I found out was Chef Boyardee canned spaghetti. John had failed to either open the can or to vent the can before putting it on the Coleman stove. John was not always the mechanical genius that he's turned out to be at Bayliss Boat Works. After finishing up with Sam and myself, John had a 46 Ricky Scarborough built and became a captain of his own charter boat at Oregon Inlet Fishing Center. I was fortunate enough to have my good buddy John in the neighboring slip. Oh Lord, how many times I had to avoid John in the afternoon so my people would not see his catch. When you're a charter boat, that's something you become very conscious of. If you've had a slow day, you don't want to arrive at the dock at the same time somebody that has really laid it into them. You want to avoid it. And we normally cooperate with one another, and John did. But anyway, eventually John moved over to Pirates Cove. And I have always told John that I surely missed him, but I did not miss his fish. At this point, I would like to mention some of John's notable tournament wins. He's been the winning angler in the Ocean City White Marlin Open. He was top captain in the 2013 Virginia Beach Marlin Tournament. This is super outstanding here. 3 times winning captain of the Pirates Cove Billfish Tournament in Manteo, North Carolina. And that's against the best of the best, you can believe that. And also winner of the 2021, so he's won something in the last 30 years. I'm envious of that, of the Dare County Boat Builders in 2021. But I think the outstanding performance of John is having won in Los Sueños the Triple Crown in 2015 and in 2018. That is, I think everybody would agree, that's about the stiffest competition in sport fishing today, and John has won that Triple Crown twice. I may have forgotten something, and if I did, it's his son John's fault because he didn't tell me about it. Okay, let's see here. John was in on the very beginning of what was to become the evolution of light tackle bill fishing that we employ today. 50 years later, he is still on the cutting edge of that evolution, and he is. He's out there making it better and better, even as he's older than some of his contemporaries now. I have been involved as a private boat captain in 2 new boat builds and a project or 2, and am proud to say that John and I have remained the best of friends. And let me tell you, the position of a best friend as the builder and the owner's allegiance that you owe, that can be some delicate ground at times, boys. Anyway, I'm so proud of John and so proud of the organization for recognizing John for what he so richly deserves. Thank y'all.
Thank you, thank you. Well said there, Captain Chip. That was awesome. So, what does it say here next? How about Captain John Bayliss? Please come up to the stage and accept the IGFA Tommy Gifford Award. Look at that. Look at that crowd. All right? Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, let him have it. Well, I wish my mom and dad were here to see this. Thank you, Rob, Smythe, Chip. Wonderful comments. It's a little bit overwhelming to hear some of this. We started this in this career. It was something that I always really, really wanted to do, and we found out at a young age. My brother Joe's here. Mom and Dad took us down to Hatteras when we were really young. I think I was 12 years old when we were coming back, and we were living in Ohio, of all places, at the time. And we discovered Hatteras and wound up, when we were riding back, at that age, I said to myself, man, there has got to be some way I can get involved in this and make this my vocation. And a few years later, we went down for vacation again. I was scheduled to go into the Merchant Marine Academy in September. And Captain Emery, we were chartered with him. And he said, he called me when I got home and he said, hey, I'm having some difficulties with my mate, Bernice, and I'm thinking we're gonna make a change. Would you wanna come down and give it a try? And that's what happened. And I got there when I was 18 and stuck with it ever since. I asked Emery, I said, look, I got to check it out with my parents first, make sure that they're okay with me missing school in September. And he said, don't worry, I've already talked to them. So we were good enough friends. I put my stuff in a pickup truck, came down there and never looked back. So I just want to say, how much Captain Emery, Sam Stokes, Chip meant to me, and how much luck I had to be able to get in with guys like that, to have their trust and for them to give me an opportunity. And it changed my life. And I'm forever indebted for that. And so I think in fishing, there's a lot of luck involved. There's a lot of chances. There's a lot of risks. And, we all have to be willing to do that. And it's a measure of how lucky you are with some of those decisions that, how far you can take this thing. So those were all really lucky decisions for me. Another lucky one was we had come to the point where I was gonna get my first boat, and that was 1980. And Ricky Scarborough had just started building. He put a boat in the water, the Poor Girl, and that boat was really pretty, but he did not have another boat to build. The economy was messed up then, it was terrible. And I still wanted a boat. I was 23. Ricky decided that he would build me a boat, and that's how we got started at Oregon Inlet. So that was another really, really lucky thing. And Ricky Scarborough, a legend himself, to be able to build that boat, I was involved in it just a little bit, just enough to be in the way probably. And that was just a super experience. The next lucky thing that happened on that very same boat, I wind up having a young lady going fishing with us. Her name's Hilda, and later she became my wife, 42 years. And that was another lucky deal. I don't think it was too lucky for her, but she's definitely had her hands full. We made a decision kind of early on. There was a few pathways for somebody to go in around Oregon Inlet at that time for, what are you going to do for the whole year? If you're going to be a fisherman, you're probably going to be a charter fisherman in the summer. You're going to be a commercial fisherman or you're going to be a boat builder, or you're going to build houses. Those are the three things that you're going to do. And I chose the commercial fishing thing. And that was really I felt at the time it was a great decision. So the day before we got married, we closed on a commercial boat. So now we have two boats. We have the Tar Heel and the Tar Girl, which later became the Tar Baby. And that's how we eke through. And Hilda did a wonderful job with our daughter Ladd, son John, and now I have the privilege of seeing those guys every day because we all live so close together. But I need to, there's been a lot of things said tonight, and I don't want to take too much of your time. I do want to say, I want to quote a couple things from Chip. These are quotes that I think should be written in stone. These are things that I learned from him when we were fishing together. We'd have a tough day, and I'd say, Chip, what are we going to tell these guys? And Chip his quote for that day would be, "Blessed are those who expect nothing, for they shall not be disappointed." We'd be going out, and the conditions are just homogenous everywhere. You don't know what the heck, and he was a master at that time, especially just way ahead of everybody on reading the water, knowing what to do, noticing that half-degree temperature change, just the tackle, everything that Chip was doing, I was trying to soak up like a sponge. He was excellent. And well, where are we going today? And he goes, man, today, every spot's a winner, every spot's a loser. So that's another good one. And then here comes the sonar. And we're debating about, like, sonar is really important. Some of the guys that don't have sonars, what are they going to do? What's the spread? What is the sonar that important? And Chip would say, well, you still have to take the boat to the right spot. You still got to put the boat on the fish. And I'll tell you what, I've never caught one that wasn't there. So those are quotes that we can all live by that I think that we can stick with. But one question that I get a lot is like, how in the hell did you wind up boat building? And I honestly don't know, but I want to just briefly explain what happened. We had the opportunity to build a boat with Paul Spencer, gone through charter boat history, commercial fishing, all that stuff. Wound up working for Hatteras, wound up working for a Viking dealer, and all of a sudden Smythe comes into the picture, and Smythe says, let's build a boat. Paul Spencer had just started, so we started construction with a Paul Spencer boat. Well, I lived right there, less than a mile from the shop, so I'm in there every day. We build the boat, we get this awesome boat. Paul's, he and I are good friends, build this boat together, we get the boat. I am tremendously excited. Back in that day, that was Venezuela, St. Thomas, Oregon Inlet, all those places, and I'm thinking we are just going to mohawk, billfish all around the world. Fast forward, we get to September. That happened to be the year of 9/11, 2001. The world changed, and those of you that are old as I am or older, that you can remember how much it changed. That was a really impactful moment. At that time, I had no desire, had just been through the build, no way at all were we ever going to consider building boats. That wasn't even in my mindset at all. And Smythe and I are just really tight friends, and he said, man, there was all kinds of challenges in every business, and he said, man, we might sell this boat. And I'm like, oh boy, what are we going to do? And I said, let me make a few feelers. Let me ask a few questions and see if there's a possibility of somebody wanting to build a boat, because I'm either going to go back in and try and build boats for a living, or I'm going to go try and build a 20-knot longline boat and see what we can rape and pillage with that. So it was one of the two. And the first guy I talked to, God bless him, Mike Atkinson, he committed to a build. And before we had the shop up, we wound up having 4 contracts to build boats, one of which was Chip's boss on the old reliable Nick Smith. So that's really honestly how it happened. And I just can't, I'm so humbled for the team that we had when we started. Nancy Brown was with us. She's still with me by my side every day today. And
we had 6 people, and we said, let's just build some kick-ass sport fishing boats, and we'll build 2 at a time, and we're going to have fun doing this. And then it grew. Then customers started pushing it a little bit more about the quality and about the range of the boats, where can we go, that kind of thing. And it wasn't me, I can tell you that. It was just, we're in the moment, and there were a lot of people pushing us, and we were all hungry to get better. And that's what we did. And the crews that we were exposed to and the owners that we were exposed to through that really helped the development of the boats that we build today. And I can't, it's been a blur. It's been 23 years of doing that now, almost as long as I had fished. And I am just so grateful for the owners and the crews and the guys. The team that we have there now is over 100 people, and it's incredible. And they bring it 100% every single day. So I'm very, very thankful for that. But to close this up, I'm just very fortunate to be a part of this brotherhood. I'm very thankful to have been from Morgan Inlet, but I'm very thankful to be a part of this industry that we all love so much, and how it's shaped all of us. We all push ourselves hard every day in a tournament, or whether we're fun fishing or however, building boats or whatever we're doing. And collectively, as a small niche market of this vocation that we call offshore blue water fishing, we've just been so lucky to keep building it. Look at the evolution of what's happened since 1980, when we first started running boats, to today. One mate, single engine boat, 1 captain, very simple tackle. Now we're 10 to 12 crew, 40 knot crews, incredible boats, ships that can take them all around the world, sonar, seakeeper, you name it, it's there. And I just wonder what the next step is going to be. So I just want to thank everybody for making this industry what it is. And those of you guys here that have helped us and supported us, thank you so much. And thank the IGFA and this crew for the award tonight. Thank you.
The next Tommy Gifford Award recipient is Captain Billy Bohr. A Newport, Rhode Island native with a lifelong passion for fishing. Captain Billy Bohr built a global reputation for excellence and mentorship throughout his career that spanned continents, from the Red Sea to the Caribbean. First up to tell us more about Billy is Rod Winley. Come on up, Rod.
I had no idea I was going to get up here. So this is totally off the cuff and impromptu. So, and I'm not bullshitting you, okay? Mona just reached over and goes, okay, Rod, go. Didn't know that. So what can I say about my friend Billy Bohr? I had the privilege of owning a boat that Billy was captain on for 20 years. And it was interesting tonight to look in the program, and Billy started his career on a Hatteras, and he ended his career on a Hatteras. And Billy taught me a lot about marlin fishing, and I'll never forget, I met him in Macon, Georgia, when he was looking for his next gig, and I went down to interview him, but he was really interviewing me. And he wanted to know what my commitment was to marlin fishing, and I had just bought a 68 Hatteras starter boat, and we fished that one for a while, and then traded that in and got another 68, probably one of the last great Hatterases they built. And still fishing on that boat, fighting Lady Yellow. She's down in St. Thomas, and I heard somebody refer to her today as Old Yeller, and I said, well, that's a fitting nickname for the boat. But speaking of that, Billy loved his Labrador Retrievers. I saw John had a dog up there. And after Billy interviewed me and we started fishing together, along came Glenn Helton, who grew up in the same town that I was from. And they had fished together on the El Zorro, but Glenn and Billy became the Oscar and Felix of sport fishing. So if you know Glenn Helton and you know Billy, it was Alex and Felix. I can still hear Billy tonight yelling at Glenn, what the hell, Glenn? And we argued over tackle, they argued over tackle, they argued over everything. And the best thing I can say about Billy, when we started fishing together some 20 years ago, Billy wanted to know what my intentions were with regard to fishing. He said, you know, because I'm not a snag and drag guy, I'm a bait and switch guy. I said, well, I had met Billy when I was fishing with Randy Jennersey on the Free Enterprise. And I said, well, Billy, I'm all in on bait and switch, and I want to tag fish. I don't want to kill them. And in 20 years fishing with Billy and Glenn, we only kill one fish. And so we tagged them all, and I'll never forget. and I took that very seriously. And the only fish we killed was down at St. Martin, and was tell you one quick story about Billy and fishing with Billy. We were fishing at a tournament down at St. Martin, and we hooked this fish, and it was, it was probably, 500 pounds, something like that. And a thunderstorm came up. And I mean, the lightning was freaking jumping off the water all around us. And of course, I'm sitting in a chair with a lightning rod. And everybody else is inside, but somebody, I think it was Doug Cadell who fished with me, stayed out there on the chair, and the fish freaking greyhound right into the freaking storm. And before we even caught the fish, we got the fish on, freaking lightning strikes the water right beside us, hits the boat. Westy, our mate, was holding on to the rigger. He gets knocked off the boat, and freaking everything on the boat shuts down. And we got this fish on the line. And freaking water's coming in the boat. I mean, it was unbelievable. But Billy kept his calm and got the boat restarted. And we caught that fish, and we won the tournament with that fish. And I think lightning struck him, and that's why he died. But anyway, we hauled that fish in, and as soon as we got it in, it was so funny because Glenn turned to me and he goes, Rod, there's your fish over there. And I turned around and looked, and all the natives had freaking machetes out, and they were hacking that fish up. And that was the last time we saw it, and that was the only fish we ever killed. So with that, I have the greatest honor of fishing with Billy for 20 years. And the best thing I can say about Billy was he was a member of my family, but most of all, he was my friend. We buried him in July on the North Drop. For you guys that are fishing out there, he sits in the corner, and which is one of Billy's favorite places to always come if we needed to snag a fish at the end of the day or in a tournament. We always went to the corner and tried to pull one up there. So that's where Billy lies. And when you're down there fishing the North Drop, think about Billy. He was a special human being. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Rod. Next up for a few words about Captain Billy will be Glenn Helton. Come on up, Glenn. I remember one tournament in St. Thomas, and a boat broke down off Anegada, and he had the tow rope and everything, and Billy stayed up all night towing that boat all the way back to Red Hook. That was crazy how good Captain Billy was.
Thanks, Skip.
How about it?
Hello, everybody. Glad to see a big crowd here tonight. It's awesome. Billy and I spent a lot of time together. Billy and I spent a lot of time together, 20-something years.
He was a good one, and he was a good one. You're right.
We had a lot of good times. Billy gave me the opportunity to fish on the Ozoro in 1994. And the man we worked for, Jim Edmondson, he was an eccentric idiot, pretty much.
On the Ozoro.
On the Ozoro. This is the man that would drive out. He liked to drive the boat in and out of the slip. And his big thing was he had just purchased a 55 Hatteras with a bag full of money. And his thing was to get in the tower with his Speedo on, white sunglasses, a red, white, and blue bandana, and play Top Gun and drive in and out of American Yacht Harbor. He was crazy. We're in Venezuela fishing, and we caught this yellowfin tuna, which on 30 pound, which was like 4 pounds off the 250 pound record. So we get to the dock, and Jim wants to sell the fish. He was that kind of guy. He wanted to sell ice to people after Hurricane Marilyn, and we told him no, we're not selling ice. So I dragged the fish down the dock, throw it in the back of a 57 Chevrolet, and we drive to some fish market, which I had to drag this 240 some odd pound yellowfin up a flight of stairs to weigh it. After weighing it, the guy brings me a brown paper sack full of bolivars. I mean, there was a lot of them in there. So I get back to the boat and I give the money to Jim, and the next morning he comes out and he's got the split. Billy and I got $14 apiece. Billy was pissed, basically. So that day we go out fishing, we put the lines out, and immediately a hole opens up on the right long. And Jim gets in the chair and he goes, "What do you think it is?" I said, "It's one of those Volkswagens we caught yesterday." And he goes, "I don't want to catch this thing." And Billy yells down from the bridge, "I'll come down and catch him, but if I catch him, he's mine." Well, immediately you see Jim's hand just tighten up on the reel, and kapow, it's gone. And Billy just went off on him. "What the hell did you do that for?" You know? But it was kind of funny because, you know, it really wasn't a thing. He just was giving Jim shit, which, you know, we did all the time. And we fished for 2 years, and then in Jim's infinite wisdom decided that I was no longer needed, and he let me go. And I started doing some other stuff. But then when we got hooked up with Rod came down to go fishing with the Free Enterprise, and that's one of the years that I fished with Randy. And that year it was on the brand new American Custom Yachts, 99. And I met Rod, and we fished. And then when it was all over with, I said, "You know, this is pretty cool. You like this, you know, you need to keep a boat here, blah, blah, blah." You know, when the man just sold his company for whatever, you know, an ass load of money. And he said, "Yeah, we're thinking about it, nah. And so we swapped numbers. And around Thanksgiving, I called him. I didn't get an answer, left a message. I get a call on the next Monday or Tuesday, and he goes, "Dude, I'm sorry I didn't get back with you. I've been really busy. I've been up in New Bern, North Carolina, looking at my new 68 Hatteras." He goes, "I hired Billy Bohr as the captain." I went, "Oh, cool." He goes, "Do you want a job?" I went, "Shh, sign me up." And that started our 20 years with Rod. We went through a lot of shit. We played a lot of golf. Every place we went, Billy and I had a golf day. It didn't matter where it was, but that was part of the deal. Wherever we're at, we're going to play golf. With Jim, with Rod, with anything we did, we always had our golf clubs on the boat. We kept them with us all the time. And that was another one of his passions. At a young age, Billy was a caddy at a golf course in Rhode Island. So he had a passion for golf. I liked golf. I wasn't worth a shit, but I liked to play it, and I liked the friendship and the camaraderie that we had playing golf. And to this day, I will always remember that man. He taught me a lot of stuff, and he was the consummate IGFA fisherman. Everything we did was IGFA. It didn't matter what we were fishing for. The line had to be right, the snaps had to be right, everything had to be IGFA specs. Nothing, and that was one of the things he asked me when I started to work for him on the Ozoro. That's all we do. We fish green Andy, and we IGFA fish. And he taught me a lot. We're born the same year, but I looked up to him. And I'm grateful for his friendship. Thank you.
And now accepting the award for Captain Billy Borer will be Mona Wells. Mona, come on up here, please. Good. She has a few words for us. Go ahead.
I just am super, super honored to accept this award for Billy. I didn't have enough time with him. We were probably together about 13 years. And I was learning and trying to catch up with the fishing industry as fast as I could. He was so wholehearted. He would just be in awe and humbleized that he got this award. And he deserved it. He was such a mentor, and he cared so much for everybody. And just want to say thank you. Thank you.
The next Tommy Gifford Award recipient is Captain Barry Ross, who is with us tonight all the way from Australia. Barry is a trailblazer in the Pacific sport fishing world, known for his pioneering topwater techniques for giant trevally and sharing his expertise across the dynamic waters of the Great Barrier Reef in Papua New Guinea. To tell us more about Barry is Ian Middleton from Cairns, Australia. Ian, come on up.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's the way. Wow, I love your passion. Everyone said it's bigger and better in the United States, and damn, when it comes to fishing, it's obviously true. You guys are awesome. I mean, normally going third is a pretty good thing, but far out tonight, going third's tough. I hope you guys can understand me. I don't know if it's because I've just finished a 40-hour journey to get here, or maybe it's just because I'm Australian. I mean, clearly the accents changed significantly at this point, but bear with me, guys. All of the speeches, from congressmen to obviously very caring, close family friends of our awardees so far tonight, really resonate with exactly what Barry Cross brings to sport fishing in Australia. I mean, we're a little old island nation way out in the west from here that, you know, a lot of people hear of is all about kangaroos and wombats and platypuses and cool things like that. But we love our fish, and obviously the giant black marlin is pretty iconic and sort of holds Cairns in high esteem. Everything that was said about the recipients beforehand, and I'm sure all of these legends, is exactly how we feel in Australia about Captain Barry Cross. So it's a real pleasure to be here tonight. The journey was absolutely worth it, and I'd just like to tell a bit of a story about how I met Barry. So Skip mentioned Papua New Guinea. Barry was pretty influential up there with teaching us up there in PNG how to catch blue marlin in particular. And it was my great privilege, sort of, to meet him in a tournament that we call the Billfish Shootout up in Papua New Guinea. So we only have one tournament in the whole year that is a cash tournament. Okay, so where money is the prize, and it only goes for one day, and it's part of an annual national game fishing titles. And so we have a real mix of people on the water. I mean, usually you'll have at least 30 boats, but a lion's share of those boats will be folks that are just corporate sponsors, if you like. They're being taken out by the captain or the owner of the boat just to have a good time and enjoy the day and just to be part of that iconic event for the year. You'll then have a lion's share of individuals like it was myself on the day, who are crazy competitive fishermen and who are there really to try and win that one significant tournament for the country for the year. So interestingly, I was actually fishing with John Cross. So for those of you that might have looked at the awardees as they came up, as we came and took our seats, John Cross got inducted into this famed group of people in 2019. Now, I don't know my IGFA history that well, but I suspect that having two brothers awarded is pretty significant. So I congratulate both John and Barry for being a very influential family down in our part of the world. So how does this day pan out? So as I said, we were in the competitive side of things and we had by far the smallest boat and a fleet of 30. So we had some pretty decent game boats up in PNG, certainly not the nice Hatterases that I've been seeing pictures of. This is far more appropriate. So I'm glad that picture went up. So yeah, something like that gives you a real idea of what we're fishing out of in Papua New Guinea. The boat I was fishing on with John was a 7-metre trailer boat, significantly the smallest boat in the fleet, and we brazenly went out there thinking we could mix it with the big boys on this day. So out we went. It was a very slow morning of fishing. It was around about a midday tide change. Things changed, there was a few strikes, so we were lucky enough to stay hooked up to a decent fish. So the qualifying weight was 350 pounds. We thought the fish was maybe about 360 pounds. When it's a bit hectic with the blue marlin, they're a little more difficult to judge, especially when you're used to blacks. So we thought, well, it's the first successful capture of the tournament, so we'll put a tag in it. We'll be leading the tournament because it's one of those tournaments, if you don't catch a qualifying fish and weigh it, you win for the most number of tags. So we tagged the fish. The day turned quiet again. We got to mid-afternoon. We were still the leading boat at this stage. And John decides, I'll give Barry a call. You know, we're in some pretty nice water. We'd seen a few fish. It was getting to the middle of the afternoon, drawing towards the end of the tournament. And he calls his brother on the radio. They have some code for a secret, you know, you say particular words and it means you go to channel 86 or something like this, which I found out later. They quietly switch over to channel 86 and John Cross, the older brother in all his wisdom, calls this guy on the radio and says, bro, over where we are, the water looks really good. We've seen a couple of fish. We've got the only fish. Come over here. So we're on the only boat in this really nice patch of water. So he calls his brother over. Over they come. Now, in contrast to us, we're the competitive lot. We're really trying to win the tournament. Barry rocks up in his nice big shiny game boat, you know, the fancy skipper from Cairns. Here he is in Papua New Guinea. All these expectations, and he has a large crew of corporate clients on board. Now, these corporate clients have never fished for marlin before, so by mid-afternoon, we all know how marlin fishing goes, right? The bad days can be pretty quiet. Well, luckily, the cooler box in the back of this boat was large, and there was half a dozen guys who were extremely well lubricated on the back deck of this boat. They take their second pass past us on this spot and hook a really nice blue. It comes tight, it's greyhounding across the ocean, and we're watching like, damn, that's a good fish. Old mate stumbles out of the saloon, walks over to the reel, and in the adrenaline pumping excitement, just pulls the lever back into free spool. Oh, you can imagine what happened with the blue marlin going off. It was at least 300 pounds. Beautiful bird's nest and an almighty crack. This guy just about fell over backwards from the noise. we could see Barry turn red on the bridge, and that was the end of their fish. And we thought, well, that was the end of their tournament as well. So things go quiet again. We're going along. It's half an hour till end of fishing. So John and I look at each other and go, well, we've got the first tag. We've got the only fish of the day at this stage out of the 30 boats. On count bat, even if someone else catches one late in the afternoon, we'll win the tournament. So we said, let's head for home. So we start heading for home. We're pretty happy with ourselves. And we're about 15 minutes out from end of fishing. We're halfway back to the marina, and we hear Barry's team come on the radio. Hooked up. We look at our watches and we're like, blue marlin, even a small one in PNG, there won't be enough time to catch that fish, tag it, and put the lines back in the water. So we're like, you beauty, John and I high five, we've got this. We're going along, we're pulling up at the marina. Barry calls in, it's only 10 minutes later, and he goes, yep, tagged fish. We're like, oh, that's cool. So, you know, the two brothers, they've caught the only two fish of the tournament. There's a bit of a silence, and then Barry calls in a second tag. And we're like, what? You're kidding. So they caught two fish under 100 pounds, less than the actual total weight of the one fish we caught. While they were winding the lines in, they hooked a second blue. They had two on at once, and somehow those well-lubricated gentlemen managed to pull off a miracle and catch both fish. So there we were back at the dock. Barry comes in. I'd never met him before. I'm there with John. John not looking the happiest about his younger brother at that moment in time. All I could do was shake Barry's hand, say, mate, congratulations, well done. But ladies and gentlemen, by name and by nature, that is the ultimate double cross. I copped it. I got the ultimate double cross. So that's my story. That's how I met this great man. I was fortunate to then, when I left Papua New Guinea, to choose Cairns as my home, and we've become really, really good mates since then. I'm absolutely humbled and privileged to be able to share the knowledge of this great man, to have him on the back deck of still, believe it or not, a 7-metre trailer boat. I either haven't learnt or I haven't made any money, I don't know which. But no, we enjoy our fishing, and it doesn't matter to Barry whether he's on a 7-metre boat or a 70-foot boat, he will still give his time and his knowledge generously to this amazing sport that we have. And, you know, we all talk about, we saw a bunch of flags there earlier with GTs all over them, and, you know, everybody talks about that amazing popper fishery for giant trevally, and to think that, you know, a friend of mine pioneered that is really special. So I want to congratulate Barry for everything he's achieved. There is no better human being in this world, in my opinion. So to Barry Cross, you're a one talk, a mate, and a bloody good bloke, as I'm sure all the recipients are. For those that are thinking that 40-hour journey has got the better of me, one talk is a Papua New Guinean word for mate or bloody good bloke. So just a few people from Cairns that have asked me to pass on my congratulations to you, Barry. Keith Graham, Robert Erskine, I'm sure that surname resonates with a few people. Will Pritchard and Ronnie Gallo all pass on their congratulations to you tonight. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Ian. And now from Alaska, we're going around the world here. Chuck Telsky, come on up, join us on the stage. You're right here, man, on the mark.
Thank you very much.
How about him? All right. Don't be nice, Ron.
Yeah, I'll be speaking Alaskan, not Australian, but if you need closed captioning, I think we'll be all right with that. Thank you to the IGFA, and congratulations to every award winner here tonight. And I'd like to propose a toast, even though I don't have anything with me, to all the lovely ladies tonight. Aren't we lucky? Absolutely spectacular. Thank you. You honor us by being here. There are so many captains here, I don't know who to salute first. Captain Bayliss, I don't know how you get your dog to smile like that. I need to work on that one. I actually served in the United States military years ago, and My captain was named Captain, so things got very confusing. They said, Captain, Captain, report to the orderly room, and 2 people would always show up. So we had to sort that out, and it worked out reasonably well. Like Captain Bayliss, I sure wish my father had gone deep sea fishing with me, with Captain Cross. It would have been wonderful. His captain, when he served with the Army 8th Air Force in 1943 and 44, was Captain Gable, first name Clark. So I was extremely proud of my father, and as you were of yours, of course. So that was pretty terrific. Anyway, I wound up in Alaska for some reason. I went there for 2 weeks in 1976 and wound up leaving, I think, in 2013. One of those kind of things. A lot of nice fish there, but it gets kind of cold there on occasion. So I'm in the advertising business. I own a company called Husky Advertising, makes sense for up there. So I'm looking out the window, and it's maybe 30 degrees and light snow and everything else. I figure, wow, gee. Then I check things down under. I'm up and over, and Barry Cross is down under. I said, oh, it's 30 degrees there as well. Celsius. Yes, you don't have to shovel sunshine, after all. So I'm getting ready to go. And the thing about it is, and all of the captains here and anglers here will probably understand this too, wouldn't it be great if all the captains had a biography or a website about the angler they're going to take out, right? Because on occasion, you've got to be a psychiatrist. You've got to be everything else you can think of. All these different, I'm a type A personality, okay? I do TV commercials. I'm a spokesperson. I do things quick. 30 seconds at a time, boom, and I'm done. I give it all I got for 30 seconds, and that's it. And you can check with my ex-wife, she'll confirm that. So I make the long flight to Cairns. So I'm over there, and Barry Cross says, meet me at the dock. I never met him. This is 35 years ago, so I'm thinking about what happened here. So I get down, there's a boat, Libertine. It's like 34 feet. I've seen that movie too, Roy Scheider, you're gonna need a bigger boat. I said, there's a lot of water out there, what's up with this? And, I jump in the boat and we start going. And I notice that he and his mate are doing everything you can think of with the gear. They're tightening the drag and doing all this stuff and braiding this and that and everything. My goodness gracious. So there's a lot going on here, and it takes like 2 hours to get where we're going. I'm looking, it's like 11 o'clock. I'm thinking of having dinner at 6. Are we going to catch any fish? Once again, 30 seconds at a time. I'm always in a hurry. Kind of silly. Patience, very, very important. So we get out there and we get a hit, and I get in to the chair, and the fish looks to be about 300 pounds, so I'm told. I've never fished for marlin before. I'm cranking, and about 8 minutes later, it's gone. Gone. A little bit later, get another hit. 12 minutes later, it's gone. These fish are really rude. I mean, I came a long, long way from Alaska to do this, okay? I had to buy a pair of shorts and everything. So I'm wondering, it's 1 o'clock, what's going on here? And all of a sudden, a really big hit. And Barry comes down and says, this is a really big fish. And his eyeballs got real big, and the reel, of course, is bigger than my forehead. And I figured, well, this is what I came here for after all. I've been working out at the gym and everything. So I get in the bucket thing again, the harness, and they're moving the chair back and forth and everything else. So the line goes out considerably. The fish does show herself. She's really big. And I reel for about 45 minutes, and in about 45 seconds, all the line goes out. Now what do you do? Well, I guess got to reel some more. Say, hey, mate, what you doing? We're gonna have some lunch. You gonna reel that fish in or what? Well, I only speak Alaskan, so I didn't take any instructions from that. So finally, after an hour and 43 minutes, we get the fish in. It's tagged, everything's perfect. We start heading back to the dock. A wonderful experience, but here's what it's all about, I think. Most anglers who would do that would brag until the day they die, okay? I didn't really catch that fish myself, and I think a lot of anglers here would agree with me. Barry Cross caught most of that fish. Why? Because he and his crew prepared very, very well. Then they executed very well. He angled the boat, small as it was, to make sure he got that fish tired out and got the right angles on it so that we could be successful. So I thought about that for the last 35 years. Barry, thank you for that. It's not me, it was all of us in that 34-footer in 1990, plus the fact that in 1 hour and 43 minutes and the rest of that day, I made a friend for life. Thank you, Captain Cross.
Captain Barry Cross, come on up. Receive your award. How about it?
Well, I did write a few words, and I thank the kind words of Chuck and Ian and the IGFA for even accepting my nomination. I just want to start. I just got a text on my phone 10 minutes ago that a gentleman in Cairns has passed away, and some of you people out there will know this name. His name was John Mondora, and very well known for fishing quite a lot with Jack Erskine, but as a photographer of the heavy tackle marlin industry, one of the best. He passed away at 12:15. That would be just 12 hours ago or whatever it was. And a real shame, because I knew John fairly well, and just about everybody that fished on the Barrier Reef knew him as well. I'll just start, and I'm going to read from notes because I'm old and I forget. I never thought I'd be standing up here. I have my grandson Jordan here with me, 13 years old. We've done quite a lot of fishing since we've been here. We've been here for 10 days before this, and had some quite good fishing since we've been here. Really nice to get him out there. Another thank you to Kimberly Strong, who I have been liaising with for quite a few months and putting 101 questions her way, which she's kindly answered for me. And thank you very much, Kimberly. And as Ian said, my brother stood up here in 2019, I think it was, for the good work that he'd done up in Papua New Guinea. And, you know, I wish John was here. If it wasn't, there's a few people in my life that have made this possible. My wife of 44 years, and my son, Ashley and Ben, and now we have little Jordan, and I do have a new granddaughter too. I've got to teach her fishing. So hopefully down the track that'll work. A couple of other people that have been fairly instrumental in helping me out in what I've done were Jack Erskine and Peter B. Wright. Two people that have really helped me out. Jack took me under his wing when I went to Cairns in 1978. And he was like a dad to me. I worked for him for nearly 10 years before I got out and started taking people fishing for a living. Peter Wright, what can I say? Anytime I asked Peter for anything, you know, he'd put his hand up. I'd never caught a marlin in my life or a billfish, and I had a bee in my bonnet about wanting to catch my first billfish on fly. I'm not sure why, but anyway, I had a 19-foot centre console, and I asked Peter B. during a day off in the marlin season, would he drive my little 19-footer and Peter straight away said, sure. And we went out that day, and I did catch one on fly, a little black marlin. And a few years down the track, I asked Peter once more. I said, Pete, I don't think anybody's caught a marlin on 4-pound tippet on fly. Would you come out and drive the boat once more? And we actually did go out and catch one. And that really, really stood out. Another thing with Peter, with the GT fishing in Cairns, which, I first threw a lure around the barrier reef for GTs in 1974. But one day during the heart of the marlin season, which is right now, we were all anchored, all the boats were anchored behind Opal Reef, fishing Opal and Linden Bank every day. And I was about to leave the anchorage, and Peter seen me pull the anchor up, and called me on the radio, and I'll never forget it. And he said, Barry, are you going GT fishing this morning? Which most of the boats went bait fishing in the morning. And I said, yes, I am going GT fishing first. And he said, would you mind ever so much if I rode along with you and had a bit of a look at what you do? And so to share that morning with Peter was pretty special for me. And I'll never forget it. With the fishery that I was lucky enough to, I spent my whole childhood trying to throw pieces of metal from the shore into the next zip code. That's what I like to do. You'd seen a picture there earlier. I was 15 years old catching 40-pound mackerel off the shore, trying to cast a long way. And to see where this industry has gone now, just a multi-million-dollar industry all over the world. And I got started with when I first started to think about taking customers to do it, I had a little Japanese man send me an email and say he'd like to come out and have a try. And he was a Japanese booking agent. His name was Nobi Kamaya. And he came out. I took him out GT fishing one day, and another day I took him down the river to catch barramundi. So 2 different types of fishing, which I was doing. And from that day onwards, he sent hundreds of Japanese my way to GT fish. And that was pretty special. And the GT fishery is sort of all year round. Obviously, the calmer months, weather-wise, is better, but they are there all year round. And to see what it's turned into now all over the world is very special for me. I tried to, I think some of the people up in the north, in Canada and Alaska, that someone, somewhere, invented an implement called a tailer to get fish around the tail. I made my own tailers for giant trevallies because the ones for salmon weren't quite working out. And I found it was by far the best way to get a GT in the boat rather than put a gaff in its mouth and lift it. And it is pretty wonderful that it's a fishery similar to your tarpon fishery here, where the fish is looked after very, very well, and you tend to not kill them if you don't have to. And GTs are just like that. It's really nice that 99% of people let them go. I'm just have a little look here. Just one other little shout out. We were here for 10 days before this, and there's a young Aussie guy, up in Jupiter that is a fishing koi. And so a shout out to Dingo. His name's Dingo. His real name's Jared Boschhammer. But he took my grandson and I fishing for quite a few days, and the idea was to just see how many species we could catch, or my grandson could catch in the days that we were out. And I think he's up to 16 now. We still have 2 days to go with Ray Rocha. So looking forward to that. And once again, thank you everybody. It's a very good turnout, very, very nice turnout. And to the other recipients, congratulations. And hopefully I can get back here and do some more fishing. Thank you.
The next Tommy Gifford Award recipient is Captain Paul Dixon. Paul is a visionary fly fishing guide whose pioneering work in sight fishing for striped bass and decades of global experience have helped shape the art of adventure of modern fly fishing. To tell us a little bit about Paul is Bob Rich. Bob, come on up and tell us a few stories, please.
Thank you, Captain. Ladies and gentlemen, great to be with you all tonight. Where would you rather be than right here, right now with legends, present legends and legends to be. I feel that I'm in the land of the giants. You know, this is quite a night to honor people. IGFA really put their finger on it. We spent a lot of time talking about protecting the fish and the environments, but these are the guys. Let me tell you who I think of when I think about these captains. These are the cool guys in the class. These are the guys that get to date the beautiful women and marry the beautiful girls. Yeah, hell yeah. These are the guys that get the jobs we all want, to be outside without a boss telling you what to do and when to do it. These are the guys we look up to and envy. These are the guys who it took a rookie from Alaska to tell us the truth, that if they weren't on the boat, on the shore, in the skiff, we wouldn't catch scaffats. And many of us are too embarrassed to tell it, but we would be skunked more often than not. And it's about time we all honored these guys, and I'm thrilled to admit it myself. I was thinking about doing a movie about this. It's about a story about a guy who claims to have his first sport was when he was 3. His family taught him how to fish. Now, what kind of family does that? They couldn't get him a television set or a Game Boy. They let him go out and go fish. Well, he's from California. That explains a lot of it. But he learned to fly fish and he moved to the Northeast, to the Hamptons, a real hotbed for fishing, right? And for some reason, he was prowling around the hills of Montauk. Yeah, we do have hills there. The cliffs at night. And he saw this commotion in the water off the shore of Montauk. And it was sardines schooling up and fish, big fish, going out and rounding up the bait. And he said, gee, I wonder if I throw a fly in the midst of that, if they'll eat the fly. And sure enough, they did. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how fly fishing got to the shores of the Northeast. Now think about this. Here we are, a few miles from New York City. You got all these guys sitting behind the desk making money, making laws, or making movies, or doing all the things they want to do, except for having fun. And they're going through life and they're not living. What are you going to do? Who are you going to call? Call Paul Dixon. Bring him out and have him go fishing. and it worked. One by one, these hotshots in their profession learned about this guy, Paul Dixon. And this is going to be great. I thought, I'm going to call this movie, I don't know, what would be a good name? I thought, well, maybe we'll call it Skunk Busters, like you don't get skunked anymore. And Columbia Pictures stole it from me. That's how I got to speak tonight, because Paul Dixon realized I'm the only one in the audience who doesn't lie, because I'm a fisherman, but I'm the only one he could trust. But the story goes on. Paul Dixon is more than a fisherman, and he's more than a guide. But Paul Dixon is a humanitarian. And the word gets out that when you need something, who are you going to call? I can't hear you. Who? Paul Dixon. You call Paul Dixon. A fishing guide in the Isla Mirada has a 2-year-old child who's born with cystic fibrosis. Anybody who's been near CF knows that the life expectancy is 7 years. And he sets his life's goal on finding a cure for CF. And he starts things called the Red Bone Fishing Tournament. But he has to find bigger markets to find more money, find people who love to fish and have big hearts and have places where you can enjoy fishing. What's he going to do? Who's he going to call? Paul Dixon, that's right. So the Redbone tournament makes it up to not only to Montauk, but it makes it up and down the coast of the U.S. It makes it over to Great Britain. They have a tournament in Wales, and it grows and grows and grows and makes more and more money. That captain's guide, Gary Ellis's guide, Nicole, is 43 years old, and she works in Buffalo, New York for us in marketing. 43 years old. Now, I'm not saying Paul Dixon cured cystic fibrosis, but Paul was there and he cared, and he turned fishing into something special and not just sitting on a dock by a bay somewhere. Another organization wanted to raise money to do research on the fish that we as fly fishermen especially love, not in any certain order: permit, tarpon, and bonefish, I think. And they want to do the science to protect the species, but they need money. How do they raise money? Who are you going to call? Paul Dixon, of course you call Paul Dixon. He's been headed up their banquet for 13 straight years in New York City, making money not just for one particular trade organization, for all of us who love this sport, because Paul Dixon cares. And that's the way Paul Dixon is. 2 summers ago, we're in Belize. We're shooting a movie, yes, a movie called Looking Through Water. You can pick it up now on Amazon, Looking Through Water. If you forget Paul Dixon, remember Looking Through Water. It's really good. It's got fishing in it. You like Brad Pitt in the other movie. You'll love this. So you got to look at that. So they're shooting the movie, and I got a call, and I think they said, you better come down here. And I said, why? They said, you could come on down, you'll find out. Went down there. It was based on a novel I wrote, and they were doing a movie. And they said, come on, we're doing the first fishing scenes. And I went out, and there were kind of 3 problems. First of all, everyone was speaking Spanish. Second of all, nobody there had been fly fishing ever. And third, nobody there had ever been on boats. They didn't like boats. The cast is nervous, the water. And so I got on, the guy's got the thing. He said, como esto? Like this? I said, no, the reel goes on the bottom of the rod. So I immediately got to the room, dialed up. What are you going to do? Who are you going to call? Paul Dixon. I said, Paul, you got to get down here fast. We're in real trouble. And he brought his posse. We brought down 6 people. And in a month's time, we had a movie that we're really proud of. And I hope you'll love it. Amazon Pictures. But finally, you know, there are 3 parts of this sport we love. They're the fish that we're working overtime to protect. There's the environment that's going to be more and more the issue that we're going to be talking about with global warming and how we manage our natural resources. And there's the people side of it that we don't do enough talking about not only the people we fish, but the people we need who need help from us as fishermen who can afford and who can turn fishing into so much more than just time on the water. Paul Dixon gets it. And in my world where I live, and maybe some of you too, that the highest praise you can give a man or a woman is that person gets it. And Paul Dixon gets it. And I'm proud that I'm his friend. I'm proud that he selected me to say a few words about him tonight. His friendship means a lot to me. My wife came by the first time we were talking when I first met him, and I said, I love you too, man. And my wife said, who was that on the phone? I said, oh, it's Paul Dixon. She said, it better have been. Anyway, for the next part of the award, who are you going to call? Paul Dixon. Thank you all very much.
Well, who are we going to call? Come on up. Paul Dixon.
Wow. How do you top that? You know, Bob and I go way back, and we've had many adventures and some great times. Most recently, like I said, with Looking Through Water, his book that he wrote was made into a movie with Michael Douglas. But the really great thing about Bob is that he loves to have fun, and we laugh a lot, as you just found out. So Bob's a wonderful person, and thank you, Bob, for the, the great introduction. So, but truly, I owe thanks to probably the one that really got me into fishing was my mother. And she put a drop line in my hand. She took me down to the docks on Balboa Island in Newport and left me there all day long, every day during the summer. And so I was sort of obsessed. And also my dad and I, later in years, when I finally got off the dock, we would go on the half-day boats and which were the cattle boats in Newport, and we'd fish every single weekend. And that was really the best quality time that I got to spend with my dad. And he actually, till his dying day, still fished on those cattle boats. So in the 4th grade, I was sent home from school for reading an outdoor life. And the teacher told my mother that I would never amount to anything if I continued bringing fishing magazines to school. And my mother's answer to the teacher was, well, at least he's reading. So this sport has allowed me to travel all over the world and meet some of the greatest friends that one could ever ask for. It has allowed me to live, to dream, and to read about some of the greatest joys these days in fishing, you know, bring people. Some of the things that I remember now and really bring joy is the generation and the kids, which are really the future of this sport. And I really worry about, without the kids getting into fishing, that fishing and Mother Nature sort of goes by the wayside. And it's funny, my biggest striper this year was caught by a 10-year-old kid.
And his father, his grandfather, myself, and this kid had the greatest 5 minutes and joyous time that I can remember. It was really the highlight of my whole season. And I'm fortunate to have two wonderful sons, Austin and Andrew, who unfortunately I don't get to fish with much because they're working all the time. So I'm old enough to remember, I hate to say, reading about Tommy Gifford and his great achievements as one of the greatest captains of all time. So tonight I really am truly honored and humbled just to be standing up here at the IGFA and receiving the Tommy Gifford Award. I want to thank Jason Schratwieser, Roy Conacher, and Skip Smith and the board of directors for all that you do to continue the IGFA mission. And of course, congratulate all the other recipients for their contributions to our wonderful sport. And a special thanks to my beautiful wife, who also could not be here tonight, for really putting up with my obsessions all these years. And if anybody I could wish could be here tonight, it's my mom, because she loved to get the last laugh. But I have one story that I'd love to relate. So years ago, when the Bonefish Tarpon Trust, I was guiding at the Ocean Reef Club, and they said, oh, we're starting this organization and you guys should come. So they called all the guides that were on the dock and said, please come, you know. So we walked into this room and I couldn't believe it, because I saw all of a sudden there's Billy Pate and there's Stu Apt and Bubba Rich. And I'm just like, oh my God, these are the guys, my, heroes, So I'm standing next to my guide friend and he starts elbowing me. And he's going like this. I'm like, what? And he's like, and I look over and I realize he's saying, Steve Huff. Dude, it's Steve Huff. And I'm just honored to have Steve Huff here tonight. And all of you people, it's amazing to be sitting in the land of giants, as we say. Skip Smith, Jason, Roy, all you guys, I really appreciate it. And thank you so much. I'm truly humbled.
The next Tommy Gifford Award recipient is Gene Grimes. Gene is deceased, he cannot make it. But for over 3 decades, Gene ran the legend out of Southern California, earning a reputation as the foremost expert in sword fishing. Beyond his skill on the water, Gene is known for his generosity, always willing to share his knowledge, mentor others, and help countless anglers land their very first swordfish. His accomplishments go far beyond swordfish. Gene and his wife, Susan, are both IGFA world record holders, with Gene famously landing a 244-pound Pacific halibut on just 8-pound line. He is a skilled billfish angler, an innovator, and a record setter whose impact on the sport is felt far and wide. In recognition of his contributions, the San Diego Marlin Club named its prestigious Invitational Light Tackle Tournament in his honor. A fitting tribute to a man who gave so much to the sport and the community. And is Steve Lashley here? Did you make it, Steve? Get up here. Tell me a story about Captain Gene.
His lights are bright. I'm definitely not the right guy to be giving this to Gene. I didn't know him super well, but what I did, I really admired of the man. He was a Marine. And he was always a pioneer. He was one of the guys that, a true pioneer. He would go many places that were uncharted in Alaska. One of my stories, Mag Bay, I really didn't know him. I didn't know he was fishing down there. Back in the old days, there really weren't any charts. We didn't have GPS. And I thought I was all alone on Mag Bay, and I'm going up this beach. We'd caught all the marlin we wanted by about half an hour of fishing. And we went about 30 miles up the beach, and no GPS. You're looking at your meter, and I'm trying to find some grouper and stitching my way up the beach, and I find a nice stone and turn the boat on it and look up to see a landmark, and I look over the top of a sand dune, and there's a tower sticking up on the other side of it. And Gene had gone like 50 miles up this estuary back up inside that was completely uncharted, and was fishing for snook and whatever he could catch up inside there. And so I continued on up the beach and went up there about another 20 or 30 miles. I come back and I'm looking in there. I'm like, who the heck is that guy? And I look over, and the tower's at an angle like this, and he was high and dry on the beach. So he truly was in uncharted waters, and we really didn't know, when high tides were or low tides were, and Gene was just doing what he did, exploring. And then I got to know Gene a little bit later on, probably in the, late 90s or something like that. And we started fishing some tournaments with him and against him, and a lot of times we leave in the dark, and ours is a super sight-based fishery. We got all these guys in binoculars all day, and as the day's going on, the fleet's getting a little bit closer, and I'm looking over and I'm seeing these bananas hanging down off one of our tournament competitors' bow, and I'm thinking, big cluster of bananas. I'm laughing, I'm showing the guys, hey, look at all those bananas on that guy's bow. Pretty soon we're looking a little bit more, and there's another boat with a bunch of bananas hanging out, and then a third boat, and I go, well, we better go look and see if there's bananas hanging off our bow too. So we go up there, and sure enough, a bunch of bananas on the bow of our boat, and we found out later on Gene was the one that started all that. And then just to keep it safe, Gene always kept a banana in his freezer too, just to keep the competition level. So I don't have a tremendous amount of stories about Gene. I don't know where all you guys got all these great speakers, but he truly was one of a kind and a mentor to everybody. He was a guy that continually put on seminars everywhere he went. Super respected man, and one of the guys that fished with him all the time said, Gene could tell you every drop of information that he had and still beat you in every tournament you're ever going to fish with him against. So that's about all I got for Gene tonight.
Our final honoree is Captain Kevin Nakamaru. Yeah, now. Kevin is a Kona native and an IGFA captain. He has built a world-class career spanning from trophy trout in New Mexico to grander marlin in Madeira, Australia, Kona, anywhere he goes. And today he continues to lead anglers to unforgettable catches aboard the legendary Northern Lights. To tell us a little bit more about Kevin is Anthony Shea. Come on up, Anthony.
Hello, everybody. How are you? You want some dirt, some real good stories, or what? Well, the first thing is, I'm honored to be here with many of my friends, but more so for Kevin and Elizabeth. So give you a little background before I get into some of the funny stories. Kevin and I have been fishing since the 90s. And he's always been a gentleman. He actually was the calm energy of our fishing team, believe it or not. Between myself, the hothead, and Tracy Milton, the double hothead, Kevin was the ninja. That was what we called him. He was the ninja. He was always calm. And we appreciated that about Kevin. And I can't believe that as young men that love fishing so much, we used to have discussions all the time about what we would do if we had a chance to go fish the world. And he started it all. As a young man, he wrote a letter to Peter Wright. And then he started to go fishing in Australia. And then in Madeira. So my travel disease, it's all his fault. He might be calm, but Kevin is a diva. And his daughters tell me that they nicknamed Dad Devo. So we did a lot of tournament fishing together. We did a lot of fishing together, period. I remember running the 37 Merit to TT buoy. That thing is flat out going 16 knots. We're running 30-something miles. Tracy and I used to call it the jet ski. And boy, he loved that boat. He loved that boat so much. And I couldn't believe how a person was connected so much to that machine. It really gave me quite a bit of lesson on how a man and a boat could be so deeply connected. Then we started fishing tournaments together, and I had the honor to fish for 10 years or so, assembling a team out of Cabo San Lucas. Tracy was the angler. Back then, I didn't have enough money to hire a captain, so I drove, and Kevin ran the deck. Those are some of the best times of my life. In the 90s, we won tournaments. There's a photo right there. So that tournament there was in the late 90s. It was in Cabo. And I'll tell you something about Kevin. So I started using a sonar back in the 90s. It was a searchlight. And that year, we ran all the way up the Pacific side, about 30 miles above the lighthouse on the Pacific side, and we found a skipjack school, breezing. It was right on the tide. And as we got up to the skipjacks, we filled the tuna tubes up, and then we put our spread out. Usually we drag 2 live baits, and then we drag a dead bait. We call it the Scud. We nicknamed it the Scud. And then I found 2 blue marlins on the sonar. But the skipjack school was moving at 3.5 knots, and we couldn't catch up to them. So I said to Kevin, hey, I'm sorry, but can we pick them up? And I can run uphill and get in front of them? Never a problem. Total gentleman. Picked it up, sped in front of the school, put them back out. School passed us again, and I saw the 2 blue marlins on the searchlight again. I said, I'm sorry, Kevin, can we pick it up one more time? No problem. So we did it again, and boom, we doubled up. We had 2 on, 2 nice blue marlin, both qualifiers. We get the first one in pretty fast. The first one was the smaller of the 2, and it weighed 397, if my memory's right. And I'm going crazy on the bridge. As soon as we gaff that fish, pull onto the boat, and this thing was pretty green, and Kevin was the leaderman. And I'm screaming, let's go get the other one. And Kevin looks, turns around, looks at me, and goes, no, wait, let me rest. Although he's a gentleman, that diva comes out. We ended up catching the second fish. It was 6:45. So that was pretty darn fun. And then over the years, watched him become a girl dad. And I watched him just mature into the legend that he is today. I mean, looking back all the way to the 90s, Kevin, I can't believe this, man. I'm so honored and so proud that we spent all that time together. And here you are, here today with your family, your beautiful family. And I'm proud to be your friend. I'm proud to have shared all those moments with you early on. Those are some of the best time of my life. So congratulations, Kevin.
Thank you, Anthony. I'd like to have Terry and Ann Foley please would come up here now and say a few more words about Captain Kevin.
Well, we've had all these fancy speakers up here, and now you're going to turn the redneck from Georgia loose on everybody. So. I just want to say that I'd like to thank the Nakamaru family for letting Kev chase his dreams. That family opened their home, their hearts to my family. They did such a good job of it. When I sent my twins off to that fancy private school and they said, you got to learn a second language, my girl Huddy said, I want to learn Pidgin English like they speak in Hawaii. I want to thank the Merritts for building a boat. And Anthony, I know you said he was in love with that machine. But when I bought the Merritt, the Northern Lights, I knew it was a big deal. We had to go out for the boat blessing, and I'm, a new boat owner. And I see Kento and Judy wheeling Kanami down from the 90-year-old Kanami down from the nursing home. And I thought, holy shit, this is a big deal. And I was raised right. I got off the boat and went over and introduced myself. And Kanami looked up at me and said, Japanese boat ends in Maru. And I said, I just stroked the check. Kev, he takes care of everything else. And got my ass back on my boat. His mother tried to hand me a drawing that Kevin did when he was 10 years old of a Merritt. Simply said, one day. 10-year-old kid. And that's where it started. And I have to say that one of my values in life is that you're 7 people away from knowing everybody in the world. And I wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for a dentist in Athens, Georgia named Tom McDonald, who introduced me to Captain Stokes Walker, who introduced me to Captain Sean Danke, who introduced me to Peter Wright at the ship's Chandler in Destin. And yes, Barry, they introduced me to Captain Peter B. Wright. And I am a Peter B. Wright graduate of heavy tackle fishing. That also introduced me to Scotty Levin, Dingo Boschhammer, Dana Boardman, and many others, and to a young fella that looked up at me when I got out of the float plane and said, my name is Kevin. I'll take your bag. I'm going to be your deckhand. We got on the boat. They started being professional. What do you do for a living? I said, I just spent 8 years trying to build my dental business, and I didn't want to talk any damn dentistry. So I said, I work with the IRS. Everybody moved to the other side. And I sat over here until 2 hours into the thing. A frickin' hooter comes out of the short wave there. It looked like a baseball bat. It's the biggest damn marlin I've ever seen. Smashed the short bait, and Kev put his hands on my shoulders, and I'm shaking like a cold, wet dog. He started pushing me towards, get the reel, get the reel. And for the good senator, I don't know if he's here, but 2 hours later, from stem to stern, the taxman ate that giant from the dorsal fin to the tail. And this was my first difference of opinion with Kev. He turned to me and said, you don't understand. It's a fish of a lifetime. You'll never see another one like that. I said, don't worry, cuz, we'll get them. Now, Barry, I know the trip. I made that trip to fish in '92, and the day I got home, my dad passed away. He taught me, when life knocks you on your ass, get up. So any good angler I convinced my beautiful wife, Ann, that we should get married and go to Australia giant marlin fishing for 3 weeks on the reef. I proved I'm a pretty good salesman. And I was blessed to meet the Jennings family, Ron and Solid Sal, Bo, and we fished. Ann caught, we had 10 days of slick, calm weather. Ann caught her first black, 600-pound black. Everybody's giving me a hard time about being outfished by my wife on our honeymoon. I can live with that, kinda. Until the last day. And we tagged 800 in the morning and boated boated 1188. A year to the day my dad passed. Exactly. And so Kev turned to me and said, "Do you know what today is?" I was like, holy shit, I got a connection with this guy. And I did. I just connected with him. And I chased him to Hawaii to fish a little bit with him. And all they talked about was Madeira, Madeira, Madeira. And when we got on the plane to fly home, my wife says, "You're going to Madeira, aren't you?" I said, yes. She was pregnant with twins at the time. So I chased him. And I know Tracy Melton had a little 31 Australian boat, and Kevin and Scotty Levin were there, and I Jesus Christ, when I looked around, it was the Chunda, the French Look, the Tyson's Pride, you can't touch this, and we're on this little 31 Aussie boat with no isinglass, and we're drilling holes in the side of the boat and measuring for isinglass, and I literally refer to the boat as the pesky grossa, but we caught 800 in the morning and a 1075 in the afternoon. And Kevin managed to get the catch of a lifetime. He met Betty, who I have to give credit. If it hadn't been for who I affectionately called the pizza girl, because we're fishing in the daytime, heavy tackle fishing, and I didn't know Japanese people liked pizza that much. Whew. AT, is it okay if we go have pizza tonight? Yeah, whatever, cuz. So out of the little pizza restaurant, Elizabeth came and unbelievable. She held it all together for us. She turned a fish camp into a home, gave us children, formed a family, and I watched all the things that we talked about on the back of those boats when Kev would say, how did you do it, T? And I'd say that, it's family, family, family. And so I couldn't be more proud to have been part of the journey. In the words of the country music singer from Georgia, Megan Maroney, we got the pictures, we got the stories, but you had to be there. I love you, Kev.
That was super. Oh my gosh. Well, Kevin, will you please come up and join me and accept your IGFA Tommy Gifford Award? Captain Kevin Nakamaru!
You mad? Fix your face. And I thought they all be just keep up. Players on there. Guys, what y'all trying to do?
Thank you to the committee and thank you all for being here tonight. On a night like tonight, with such an unexpected honor, the only thought that comes to mind is gratitude. So pardon me for mentioning so many people, and I wish I could mention you all, but I'm gonna have to try to get through without forgetting some of the key people that have been so influential in my career. I want to thank my parents for taking me big game fishing at a young age and making me a member of the IGFA. This taught me the rules and sportsmanship of fishing early on. And on our humble team, they fish the IGFA rules all the time, resulting in my mom catching 4 world records and my dad catching 2. My dad and I fished and hunted and worked on the farm together most weekends. And while out there in the field, I learned how to fish and hunt, but more importantly, to be a father and a friend. It goes without saying, our charter business wouldn't be anywhere without the anglers we fished with us worldwide over the years. Many of you are here tonight, so thanks for being here. I have to acknowledge the captains I fished for over the years, great captains like Bobby Brown, Freddie Rice, and McGrew Rice, Marlon Parker, Steve Epstein, Jeff Fay, Jake Jordan, and Gene Vanderhook. They continue to mentor me today, and I'm so appreciative. The most influential change came when I had the honor to fish with Peter B. Wright. We had an amazing run of fishing together. In those years, he, Scotty Levin, and I learned so much. And his better half, Aaron, and daughter, Bimini, are here tonight, so thanks for being here. My gratuity extends to the sports writers that take a humble kid from Kona and talk about them and write about their boats and their fishing, and writers like Jim Rizzuto, Dave Farrell, Rick Gaffney, Charlie Levine, Gary Caputi, Carl Anderson, Tim Simpson, and Skip Smith, to name a few. A big thanks goes out to my really close friend Pat Fisher and his wife Toby that own Hawaii Safaris, for sharing their passion of the outdoors, combining our hunting operation with our fishing experiences in Hawaii, guiding for you on your special ranches. All these last 20 years have been amazing. A special thanks must go out to the boners I had along the way. I want to thank Tracy Melton, who's with us tonight, for helping put together the pesca grossa, as T called it, and now the Grander there in Madeira. Thanks for all the goodwill and taking me on your trips with you all over the world. I really appreciate that. Anthony Shea, who shared funny stories about us with our years together with Ron Ashamini, our close friend, and fishing with our close friend Martin Herrera. Terry Foey, who spoke so well about my time with him, for being one of the best heavy tackle anglers I've ever fished with and ever will, probably. You made a childhood dream of driving a Merit reality for me. Your mentorship has made me a better man, for sure. I'd like to thank Rob and Judy McCarthy, Geza and Mecca Siege for all their friendship and help when I was in between boats. I could always use their boats for our business, and I really appreciate them. Currently, I want to thank my partner, John Polischek, and the Oahu team for 13 great years with him. He has a beautiful Spencer and made it possible for me to buy the Northern Lights and run our businesses together. His work ethic and attention to detail and understanding of boats and their systems has been a big help to me. Thank you for all you've done for me and my family. And I want to thank my current Cabo team, True Grit, Jim Putman, and Tommy Nykirk for a great run. I'm really looking forward to our future team. My gratitude goes to my mates that teamed up with me. They make me who I am, and without them, I just wouldn't be me. It's harder and harder to find the kind of teams that I've had in the past, and you always hope for that, but you just try to raise up the next kid to be your guy. And co-captains like Scott Levin, Steve Haygarth, Dana Boardman, Tracy Epstein, Matt Bowman, Oski and Kalike Rice, Dingo Boschhammer, Darren Biggles Hayden, Carlton Arai, John Kilmer, Kyle Lanata, David Borges, Ross Finlayson, Neil Preston, Boyd Tigoito, Camden Aran, and Ryan Mariano, and the whole David family. Sorry for the list, but I just couldn't leave anyone out. I hope I didn't forget any of them. And all that have fished with me, you know who you are, and I really appreciate you being there for me. I want to share a story about my wife Elizabeth's dad, a professional fisherman that fished his whole life and raised a family of 6. Elizabeth and I were pargo fishing, and we were catching a lot of fish and taking pictures, and he saw the pictures and asked to go with us. And of course I said yes, and so we got out there for the tide, and after a long wait, I thought, they're not coming. And I always thought that, like we get set up and I think, they're not coming today. And of all days, they're not gonna come. And way late in the tide, they came, and we stacked them. I mean, we crushed them. So I gave Elizabeth's dad the fish, and we celebrate. He took the fish, gave them to his friends, and they celebrated that night. And not long later, he got sick, and we lost him. So my message here is that I fished with all of you world-class anglers, and I've done my best every day. But my message here is that the fish gods called on me to take a career fisherman on his last day of fishing, not knowing at the time, reflecting how lucky we were that I didn't come out flat that day. You know, I've left ever since then, the mid-90s, leaving not knowing what my impact was gonna be on the day, and I left it all out there. And those of you fish with me know that we don't give up easy, you know. I want to recognize my wife, Elizabeth, who's given me such a wonderful family. You've been there to get me through the slumps and the thick and the thin. Thank you for tolerating my love of fishing and hunting and the love of my little 37 Barrett I spend so much time on. Finally, to my daughters that have given me so much purpose to succeed as a fisherman, but also as your dad. My hope for you guys is that you find a passion to dedicate your life to like I have. Congratulations to all the honorees, and once again, thank you for this amazing award. Thank you.
On behalf of the legendary Captains and Crew Committee and the IGFA, thank you all for joining us this evening. This is truly a special night for the recipients of all the Tommy Gifford Awards and their families. We apply to all of you, tonight's inductees and past recipients. And may I have all the inductees tonight please come to the stage for a group photo.
Salt on their skin. Legends of the tide where tales begin. John Bayliss built